and welcome everyone. This is our STEM speaker series, and we're happy to have you join us. And before we begin, I will start with the land acknowledgement. Black Youth Success and Ace and Company acknowledges that the land we are standing on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Huron-Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse nations, Inuit and Métis peoples. BYS and ACE acknowledges that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. BYS and ACE also acknowledges all treaty peoples, including those who came here as settlers, as migrants, either in this generation or in the generation past, and those of us who, as forcibly displaced Africans, came here involuntarily, particularly as a result of the transatlantic slave trade and slavery. BYS and ACE pays tribute to our African ancestors. So, hello everyone, my name is Antoinette Ellis, also known as Tony. I am the CEO and co-founder of Ace & Company, and joining me and is my co-host is Anu Bari, who's the Director of Partnership and Education for Ace & Company. So first I want to tell you about our partnership with BYS, which is Black Youth Success. It's an organization that supports Black youth in education, ensuring Black youth are safe and engaged in meaningful opportunities and are connected. Also in education, ensuring Black youth are engaged in schools and have access to resources to prepare them for life. Safety, ensuring Black youth are safe and engaged in meaningful opportunities and are connected. And health, ensuring Black youth are physically, mentally, and emotionally healthy and well. And Ace & Company is a recruitment firm that helps women and young girls explore the different careers in science, technology, engineering, and maths. We also partner with educators to help understand what the arts is in STEAM and how to integrate art into science, technology, engineering, and math. We also partner with nonprofit organizations like BYS to make sure that we have STEM awareness to all youth across North America.
So before we begin today, I'd like to go over some of the workshop norms. Please make sure all students that your mics are muted. Make sure your cameras are off. Please keep your questions until the end and make sure to keep all comments respectful. So Tony, before we begin today, I think it's important that we really let the students know and kind of level set what is STEM or STEAM. And is there a difference? And what are the careers that students could find in STEM and STEAM?
Well, thank you for asking that question, because I know a lot of people are confused on the difference. They think when they hear the arts and STEM or STEAM, that it's about, okay, I'm going to get my class to make a robot and paint it, and all of a sudden it's STEAM. That is not the case. The arts is integrated into science, technology, engineering, and math. So instead of thinking of them as two different things or separate things that have to compete each other, it's like two sides of one coin. We're looking at how we connect arts through all the STEM areas. And then there's different careers that are so amazing. So a lot of times people think when they hear STEAM and STEM, they automatically think it's technology. But technology is the tool that we use in all areas and industries. And then STEAM has an even broader opportunities for us to explore. For example, mechanical and civil engineer, architect, web and app designer, modern urban planner, product designer, animator, sound engineer, video game designer, medical illustrator, graphic designer, broadcast technicians, even a fashion designer, interior designer, and a photographer are all considered part of STEAM. So when you look at it, if we're just looking at STEM, it's just a small portion. But when you add the arts to that, it goes much bigger and much wider than that.
That's awesome. Thank you.
So now I'd like to introduce our speaker today. We're so happy to have her, Kingba Lawson-Jack. Kingba Lawson-Jack works with Nuclear Promise X as a project and humans factors engineer. She is undertaking PhD research at the University of Toronto in human factors engineering. She has an MSc in safety and reliability engineering from the University of Aberdeen and a BEng in English, in chemical with environmental engineering from the University of Nottingham. Thank you so much, Kingba, for joining us. We are so happy to have you.
It's my
So,
pleasure.
yeah, so let's get into your career journey. Today, what we're talking about is so exciting. So, tell us what your journey is. We have these photos that we're going to put up that tells us about your nuclear industry journey.
So as you can see, my career journey is a mouthful. So Tony, you're like, oh, environmental, chemical, and all that stuff. It's a lot. So my journey to nuclear started from when I joined University of Toronto. My PhD project is in human factors, but is in something called small modular reactors, which I'll have the opportunity probably to touch as I keep chatting with you. So I came to Canada to do a PhD in mechanical and industrial engineering, and I got interested in nuclear energy because of all the fascinating things I heard about it. As you heard, I have a first degree and a master's in engineering, but I never knew what nuclear energy was about. Like every other person out there, I thought it was dangerous, it was disastrous. And as a safety engineer, all I knew about nuclear energy were the accident cases that I had to investigate and find the root causes. So that's all I knew about nuclear, nothing about the power plant itself until I came to Toronto in 2016. I found this interesting and I delved into it here.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so this picture was when I was working in Saipem contracting. This is an oil and gas industry. So I was the only female in a team of all male. So this goes out to all you females who think that, you know, STEM or STEAM is, you know, a guy thing. Come on, you can make a difference wherever you are. If it's a female dominated environment and you're the only male, you can still excel and stand your foot. If it's a male dominated environment and you're the only female, just know that you're the light in that team. So this is me with all these wonderful male colleagues of mine. We were working on an offshore oil producing platform. This knowledge from this company helped me a lot to see the difference between fossil fuels, like oil and gas, coal, and nuclear energy. So I don't want to start talking about that. We'll talk about that as we go on. Yeah.
No problem.
So this is just me graduating from my master's degree at University of Aberdeen in Scotland. It was, okay, so for every step that I have taken, it's been a challenge and a ground break for me. Because when I left my work at Saipem to go study at University of Aberdeen, everyone thought I was mad or going mad, something or going crazy. Because there was a financial meltdown at that point, and people were beginning to lose their jobs in the oil industry. And here is this one person who wasn't losing her job, but leaving her job. But I had a dream. I wanted to learn more. I wanted to advance my career, and I went for it. And here I was just graduating from my degree in safety and reliability engineering.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, this just tells a lot about me. A lot of the time, you can find me in the library. I am always in the library because I go for knowledge, and I understand that knowledge can you can stand out based on the knowledge you know. Someone can take everything you have from you, but no one can take the knowledge that you have from you. So building up on that knowledge, this picture here is just to encourage everyone, while you're shining at what you do, remember to go for knowledge. Yeah. This is me again on site with all these big and heavy machines, getting to operate them, breaking grounds here. There were 95% male on this plant. I was one of the only females. Yeah, so working there as a safety engineer was quite interesting because I had to tell people, you know, the right things to do and to stop doing the wrong things to save their own lives, you know. So this is just a picture here with me and all these machines at the background. Yeah.
I feel like you're definitely looking like a boss here.
Yes.
Thank you.
That was amazing. Thank you for sharing those pictures. So now I have even more questions than I had on the that I have here prepared. So, but forgive me, but I have to know this. So, what inspired you to become an engineer? Like, what was like your drive to do that?
So for me, it was more of my inquisitiveness. So growing up, I was in between maths and biology. So I always knew I wanted to be in science. While a lot of people were doing so well in the history and literature subjects, I just couldn't understand those subjects as easy as they were. But when it came to maths, I was just like that. And same for biology. So I started my journey wanting to study medicine and surgery. And I actually got into the med school, interestingly. And after the first year of med school, I got a scholarship from my government to study abroad for engineering. So at that point, my parents, my siblings who were also engineers, they're like, oh, that's the best thing to do. I took a step back. It's like, okay, I love mathematics and I feel like it's an opportunity for me to, do some more work and learn about technologies and how I can improve the world with my knowledge and stuff like that. So I jumped into engineering. Yeah.
That is amazing. And okay, so where's home for you? Where's home?
Home is Nigeria.
Nigeria.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so during your studies, was it the same way as it was in the industry where you were the only female, or were there other females that were also pursuing engineering?
During my studies, there were other females pursuing engineering. There were more males, but there were other females. I wasn't the only female. There was kind of a awareness because I did my first degree University of Nottingham in the UK. So there's awareness for folks and young girls to come into STEM and engineering, but it's not as much as it is right now. And that's why we're still blowing the trumpet and sending the word out. Engineering is not difficult. Sciences are cool as well. But there are other females here with me.
Oh, wow. And
Can I
then,
ask, Kingba, sorry, can I ask, what was the 30 to 70 male, female? What was the ratio?
It was a 90 to 10.
oh, wow.
Yeah, it was that small.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
It was that small. Yeah, we were very few females, but I couldn't say that I'm the only one because I had other female classmates, but it was very few females. And also in my class, there were only two females who identified as Black, and all the other females were not Black. So imagine we have in a class of 60, for example, we have two Black females and the remaining are like three females from other regions. Yeah.
Oh, wow. And so then you already had that idea that most likely when you're going into the workforce, that you will be the only female.
Yes, I was kind of prepared for that. Studying engineering showed me that already there's no female gender representation in engineering and in most sciences.
Mhm.
But that kind of prepared me because we did lots of group work. We had presentations to do as group and all this kind of stuff. So it kind of prepared me to work with other people. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Okay. So now, how was it when you started to work? Like, tell me about your first experience of like being on the plant, like being with all those machinery and you having to tell people what to do to be safe. How was that experience?
So it's two ways. For me, it was really exciting because I've always wanted to do this. I've studied this my entire life in uni. It was an opportunity for me to go and see the equipment themselves and see how things are being done. We were constructing offshore platform pipes. So these are like really huge pipes that you used to put in offshore platforms where oil rigs. So you know how you have the oil rigs? These pipes hold the oil rigs. So that's what we were producing. So one part is me being really excited. The other part is people looking at me and thinking, I don't know what I'm doing, or like, what's she
Hmm.
doing here? So I, even up till now, funny enough, I get the um who is she until she speaks. Like I
Mhm.
get that a lot of times. So it was more of me trying to understand the culture in the environment and knowing how to speak to people, because like cultural differences are there as well. Cause I was working in this company in Nigeria dominated by Italians.
Mm.
So there's cultural differences. I had to, understand the Italian culture, know one or two languages or words to speak in Italy. Basically I was working 14 hours a day on plants. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It was really, really stressful time of my life, but
Mhm.
it built me up in terms of, taking leadership positions and speaking up, communication skills, both technical skills, because we have the engineering drawings and whatever is built in the plant has to be built to spec.
Mhm.
So doing all that inspections, it helped me to be detail oriented because we understand that any slight human error can lead to a huge accident, right?
Mhm.
Human error that can be prevented can lead to an accident that cannot be, stopped. So all of that just helped to build my resilience. Yeah.
That is amazing. And the resilience part, like, so how did you deal with like pushback? Like, if you felt that you were pushed back because not only were you a woman, but you're a woman of color. So, how did you handle those pushbacks? And what would you tell students if they end up in a role where they're the only one? How can they handle this?
So there's this saying that I go about with. I say I'm like Ford, I'm built tough. So if you know the Ford logo, it's
Yes, yes,
that's
yes.
what I say all the time. So what I just tell other females, it's a gradual process. Some
Mm,
people are built tough, some other persons are not. The fact that you're in engineering doesn't necessarily mean that you have a stone heart or you have to be muscular and all of that kind of stuff. But you set the goal for yourself and you gradually achieve those goals. For me, first goal I had to achieve was speaking up.
mhm,
And that person that I would be in a meeting and my supervisor is saying something that's inaccurate, but because he's my supervisor, I don't want to, correct him. So I started by showing my knowledge, and that's what I tell to younger people. You have to speak up. You can be smart, you can be whatnot, but until you speak, nobody knows. You're
mm,
holding all of these potential inside of you, and except you bring it out to the world is losing something because you're not letting go of yourself. So you first have to assess yourself and know where your strengths are. Before I got into the industry, I had to take a step back and ask myself what skills are required to excel in this industry. The culture where I come from in Nigeria, most people will look down on a female, and my frame is also small. I'm not tall and huge, so but I walk like a boss. So I kind of built my confidence. I ensure that when I say something, it's correct.
mhm.
I'm not saying things and I'm not sure about, so just kind of identifying the skills that I need and then grow on those skills one at a time. That has really helped me to build resilience. Yeah.
That's awesome. At any point, did you ever feel like giving up?
So it's hard to say that I ever felt like giving up. The only time I ever felt like giving up was the final year of my project. I had my final year in my first degree. I had completed my project, and 1 week to submission, the school did a wipe of the computer, and they had sent an
Mm.
email to say we're gonna wipe the computer. If you have any stuff, please save it. And I completely forgot. And then I went to school the next morning. Every single work I had done the entire semester was gone. That was the worst moment of my life. Like if I ever felt like giving up, it was at that point. It was like what all the hard work, the sleepless nights, but I summoned courage and I started my project again and I completed it in 1 week. It was
Wow.
work that I had done in 3 months. I had to complete in 1 week. Yeah, so that's the only time I ever felt like giving up. Otherwise, I see challenges as opportunity to grow. So when they come at me, I see them as, I have to climb. You know how you go up a stairs?
Yes.
It takes muscle to go upstairs, right? So
Mhm.
every time you lift your leg up that stairs, you're exerting energy, but it's taking you to the next level. And
Mhm.
that's how I see challenges when they come. If you can tackle a challenge and you succeed at it, then the next one will be a lot easier because you've learned how to manage such kind of challenges. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that is so amazing. And it's giving me inspiration, especially when because it doesn't matter where you are in your journey, whether you're in school or in work, you're gonna come across some challenges. So I love
Yeah.
that. I will always remember like just take a step ahead, take a step at a time. I think that's so amazing. Okay,
Yeah.
so you work with Nuclear Promise X.
Yeah.
And what is that? And then what is a project and human factor engineer?
Okay, so I work with Nuclear Promise X, and Nuclear Promise X is a nuclear consulting company, and for short, it's just called NPX. So we
Mhm.
consult in digital technology. So basically, we are creating a variety of products that will streamline the processes in nuclear plants by moving paper-based procedures to more digital work. So basically, we are increasing efficiencies in the nuclear power plant. And if you've been following the nuclear power industry for a while, it's been over 20 years of no substantial technology growth. So even if
Mm,
the world is growing and advancing technologically, the demographics of the nuclear power staff or employees are not like growing with that technology growth. So what we're trying to do is, if there is a paper-based process that would take you an hour to do, NPX is working to ensure that you focus your time on more engineering work than paper-based work. So we're ensuring that we have a couple of projects. One of the ones I'm working on is called modernization. So every time there is an engineering change, which is basically a maintenance, which is fancy name for maintenance, it's called engineering change.
okay.
So yeah, so the engineers would have to do a bunch of paperwork before they actually get the change done. And in this project, we have devised a way to reduce loss of time, which equals to loss of money, to about 20%. So, and
Mhm.
that's a huge reduction. So basically, we're just ensuring that the nuclear power industry is saving money by saving time and creating more lean processes that will help the nuclear industry more efficient. And we're all working to this 2050 goal of zero emission in Canada. So basically, that's where NPX is heading at. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay, and then project and human factor engineer. What's that?
So for everything you do is a project, right? You want to cook a pot of soup. That's a project. So as a project engineer, and sometimes I'm a project manager in NPX, we just ensure that every project in the nuclear space is well managed, because projects can go wrong. There can be cost overruns, which means you plan to spend $20 on your pot of soup and you spend $100. There can be time and schedule overruns, which means you wanted to cook your soup for 1 hour and then you've been cooking for the whole day and you haven't been able to do anything else with your time. The project itself could fail in the sense that it was not properly planned, which means that you go do your shopping and you forgot to buy salt or you forgot something. So what we do as project managers or project engineers is we start by gathering the requirements of the project, analyzing these requirements and seeing what steps we can take to meet these requirements. And then we do the cost estimation, the schedule estimation, and basically just guide the project from the beginning to the end to see that it is successful. And as a human factors engineer, now this is a really exciting part because that's what my PhD is, and then that's what I'm so passionate about. As a human factors engineer, when we design a system, the system is designed for use by a human. Now, what we have found is that most times when systems are designed, people design system based on their needs and not the needs of the users. So what human factors is about is factoring the human into engineering. So for example, there's some left-handed people and the right-handed people. So when you design, you want to ensure that both a left-handed person and a right-handed person can use your design. When you design an interface, you want to be sure of the screen size, you want to be sure of the the font size, and these are like just really on basic levels. But when you come to like nuclear power design, when you design a valve, you want to be sure that it's in line with the mental model of the user. For example, when you see a red button, you know it's stop. You don't want to put a red button as start because that's not in line with the mental model. So basically, every time there is a change in the nuclear industry or in the nuclear power plant where you have to change something, you need to consult a human factors engineer to ensure that the change that you are implementing does not affect how the user uses that system. So basically, what we do in human factors is just ensuring that if a system is designed for a human, then it has to meet the human requirements and not the requirements of the person who was designed it. So if I design a wheelchair, it's for someone who is not able to walk and not for me who can walk, because then the requirements will not match the design. So that's what we do in human factors engineering. Yeah.
That's so amazing because we take that for granted,
Yes.
as we go around our everyday life, we're like, okay, yeah, green is go, let's go. Like, this is the start. We don't even think about who thought about it ahead of time, who did the legwork to ensure that all of this can be compatible for us to use. So that is amazing. Thank you. So now let's get into the nitty gritty of nuclear. So what is nuclear energy? So as a child, or even as like grown adult self, every time you heard nuclear, you're like, oh, it's a bomb, right? We're thinking nuclear bomb, they're gonna blow something up, we're all gonna die, the world is gonna go in a few seconds if a nuclear bomb hits. So what is nuclear energy?
So I will tell you what nuclear energy is, and I'll tell you how nuclear energy is produced together. So nuclear energy is energy that is found in the atom or in the nucleus, in the nucleus of an atom, right? Mm-hmm. So nuclear energy is used to create electricity. So how is nuclear energy or nuclear power generated? So the first thing is the nuclear power plant utilizes a process called nuclear fission. So fission means just splitting. So when a uranium, which is the fuel, uranium is put in a nuclear reactor, what they do is they put a neutron that will split the uranium. So when, how they have chain reaction. So when the neutron goes and touches the uranium, it begins to split. So it splits really, really fast. And then while it does that, it creates energy. So when this heat is generated, it is absorbed by a coolant. Now, usually that coolant is called heavy water deuterium, and this is for Canada's kind of reactor. So this coolant absorbs the heat. So there is a hot metal, for example, and then you put that metal in hot water. In cold water, the water gets hot, right? So the water takes the heat from the chain reaction, right? And that hot water is sent into a steam generation. And what that does is that it generates the heat that turns the turbine. And when the turbine turns, that creates electricity that is then distributed to our homes. So basically, because the nuclear reaction is really fast, the nuclear reactor has something called the control rods. And these control rods are used to slow down the reactor because we don't want the temperature to get too hot and the reactor explodes. So the control rods are automated. When the the fission reaction happens, the control rod notices that the temperature is too high. It just goes slowly down and then reduces the fission reaction. So basically, nuclear energy is gotten from the atom, from the nucleus of an atom, and the nuclear power is generated from nuclear energy, which comes from the splitting of the uranium fuel. Yeah.
Okay, okay. So you have all this nuclear energy, but then what is the nuclear power plant? Is this the plant that kind of homes this energy?
Yeah, so when I explained the nuclear power generation, there are a couple of things I mentioned.
Mm-hmm,
I mentioned the reactor, I mentioned the turbine, and also they have the steam generators, and they have um, the control room. So basically, the nuclear power plant just consists of the nuclear reactor that carries out the reaction. It also has the coolant, the heat exchanger, which stirs the cold water that goes into the reactor and gets the hot water out. And then it has the steam generator and the steam turbine. So the steam generator and the turbine. So basically, all of these equipment is what forms the nuclear power plants.
Okay, thank you. So what are the benefits of using nuclear energy?
Oh, there's so many advantages of using nuclear energy. So the first one is nuclear energy has a high energy density, and what that means is that it provides it's able to generate large amounts of electricity
Mm,
from a relative small amount of fuel. So a small amount of uranium, which is a nuclear fuel, can produce a large amount of electricity. And the really important part of nuclear energy that everyone needs to hear and take home is the low greenhouse gas emission quality of the nuclear power. So the nuclear power generation emits very minimal greenhouse gas, helping to reduce carbon emissions and combat climate change. Currently, the oil and gas and coal and all the other fossil fuel um, power generating systems, they produce a lot of greenhouse gases that is very harmful to our health and our environment. And this is really impacting our way of lives. It's making our air quality less healthy for us. So basically, the fact that there is greenhouse gas, a lower greenhouse gas emission helps to ensure that the nuclear power plant is one of the best power generating system that the world can have. Yeah.
So is it safe to say that nuclear energy might take over for the oil and gas, especially because it's affecting our environment so badly?
That's the goal. That's the goal. So Canada for sure I know has a 2050 zero emission goal.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way to improve to get at this is to increase the power generation via nuclear power, um, wind power, hydro. These are like less fossil fuel generating power plants. So once these are increased and harnessed, then we can achieve that goal. But there is a lot of potency and power in the nuclear power plant that is yet to be tapped into. And that's what the world is getting towards. And just to quickly mention, currently, because my PhD is on small modular reactors, which is a small and a modular nuclear reactor.
Mm-hmm.
So these reactors they are portable, but the good and interesting thing about this reactor is they can be put in places where the grid cannot get to. So when we go to the mines and um, places that are too far away from the grid to get to, the nuclear power, the small modular reactors can get there. Also, they are inherently safe in the sense that they can shut down by themselves. They can produce small power. They don't need an entire huge landmass to
Mm-hmm.
produce power. And so they can be in villages where instead of connecting to the grid, they are using generators, for example. And also like small modular reactors, when you have one, you can also scale up. So you can add more. So each reactor can produce about 300 megawatts, which can power like a small city,
Oh,
or
wow.
let's say something like downtown Toronto, for example.
You said
So
like one reactor can,
one reactor, yeah,
wow.
exactly. So if we have these reactors scaled up, then we can cover a larger area with small modular reactors. So basically, it's their safety, it's the fact that they are designed somewhere else and then they are installed somewhere else. So they are modular. You can move them from one place to another. You don't have to, like the current traditional reactors we have, they're really huge. They have to be by the water body. The small modular reactors do not have to be by the water body, and they can be operated remotely as well. Yeah, so you don't have to be there in person to operate it. So that's where the world is going with nuclear power. Yeah.
So you're saying how small it is. So, but it's not like somebody can just take it in their hand and walk with it. So how would these, like, how would you transport? You must have to make sure
Yes.
it's safe, right? Because it could power a whole city.
Yeah. So it would
Almost feels like a Marvel movie here. Like
it will
the bad guy can get just one.
So one small modular reactor would fit into the loader of a truck,
Yeah.
and they are always like installed on the ground. So that's currently small modular reactors. A lot of them are still in production. So currently we are still working towards the final design phase of most of the reactors. There's the one from Westinghouse going on currently, GE Hitachi, a lot of other companies also in the United States, in France, and in the Europe generally are also working on small modular reactors.
So how come like the mass public doesn't know about this? Because everybody is still thinking that it's not safe, right? So how come everybody doesn't know that this is where the world is going towards now? Like everyone's like there's like a secret world that's working on this, but the general public doesn't know.
Yeah, there are lots of myths around nuclear power, which for those of us that have made it into the industry, we're trying to, debunk these myths. And for one is there was a Chernobyl incident, and that has taken, everyone aback on nuclear power. Everyone thinks that, oh, there's this huge accident that just happened, so we don't want to hear anything about nuclear. Nuclear is bad, nuclear is bad. So the media also is not helping as well to portray nuclear. So we're trying to voice this out. I mean, even the government at some point was not in support in nuclear, but like right now, Canadian government is pushing for nuclear. The American government, there are lots and lots of collaboration for the small modular reactor. That's the big thing happening in the nuclear industry right now. So basically, programs like this is where we have the opportunity to tell parents and children that nuclear is safe for the environment. And I recently saw a 16-year-old child, a 16-year-old teenager in Australia who is, advocating for nuclear to the government of Australia, because Australian government actually put a ban on nuclear power.
Really?
So you need to check that news out. He's 16 years old. I can remember his full name, but I saw him present to the parliament why nuclear is important.
Wow.
And when they started to ask him questions, he's like, please bear with me. I'm just 16 years old. Don't mind the questions you ask me. I would, but that gave me chills. Like, because I'm like, this young guy knows. And how did he know? He had a project in school and he picked the nuclear project. And that's how he began to learn about projects, about nuclear. And he began to question, why is the government of my country, putting a ban on such a useful technology.
So inspiring. So you're mentioning about, all these countries that are putting this forward. So what countries do use nuclear energy the most, and how does Canada use it?
Oh, so the country that use nuclear, United States, France. So United States are the largest producers of nuclear power, followed by France, China, Russia, and South Korea. So 11% of the world's electricity currently is gotten from nuclear power. So we're still waiting on the rest of the world to come on this journey with us. However, 47%, which is almost half of the world of Americans' carbon-free electricity in 2022 was produced by nuclear. And in Canada, so far, around 16% of the electricity produced is from nuclear. But the interesting thing is about 60% of the electricity produced in Ontario is coming from the nuclear.
Wow. I did
Yeah.
not know that. No, did you know that?
No, this is all new information for me. I'm like trying to
Exactly.
process this and understand it. Kingba,
Yeah.
can I just quickly ask, what are some of the nuclear plants that our students might be familiar with here in Ontario?
Oh, there are two major nuclear plants. There's one in the Bruce County, and that's run and operated by Bruce Power. And there's another one in the Durham region in Whitby, in Pickering, which is
Yeah.
operated by Ontario Power Generation. Those are the two major nuclear power plants, and they both have the Canada deuterium reactor. So this is called the CANDU reactor. So these reactors are Canada's own special reactors designed in Canada by Canadians and also used in Canada and exported to other parts of the world. Yeah.
So
Wow.
sounds like we're kind of a leader here.
Yes.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. So if more provinces in Canada will adopt nuclear power, then we will have, more of the electricity in Canada being produced. So far, I'm aware that Alberta and also Saskatchewan are also taking some lead and giant steps in getting into small modular reactors. Yeah.
That's amazing. So you hear, especially when it comes to the environment, a lot of people talk about like solar energy. Now, comparison with the nuclear energy, is there any comparison? Is it better than solar energy, or is it something that can work in tandem?
So had a I had in terms of solar energy. So in Canada, we have 2% of our power coming from solar energy, and we have 26% of power in Ontario coming from solar energy. In terms of reliability,
Mhm.
the nuclear power is more reliable because it does not depend on the weather. For
Mm.
solar energy, you need sunshine to
Mm.
get solar energy. And um, solar energy also, in terms of the material that's been built with and stuff like that, they're setting issues around the reliability of the system itself. But it's still a good one compared to oil and gas, for example, or compared to coal. It
Mhm.
emits less, greenhouse gas emission, but nuclear power is more reliable. The systems, the safety systems, they're inherently safe. For example, if something goes wrong, it will shut down itself without an operator even touching it. It knows when to get to that limit, right?
Mhm.
It doesn't need a particular weather condition for us to produce electricity. Yeah.
So
How
just
is that different, sorry, from wind turbines then? Because I think like if you drive anywhere these days, you see wind turbines, you hear a lot about that.
Yeah. The other thing with the wind turbines, okay, in terms of wind turbines, they're in Ontario, so 7% of the um power generation comes from wind turbines, but the wind turbines are also kind of expensive to install because you
Mm.
have to install a lot of wind turbines in different locations. But we have one nuclear power generating plant, and it can serve the entire Ontario, right? We have two nuclear power plants currently in Ontario, and it's serving 60%. So that's just a comparison that's there right now. And also it depends on the weather as well. Like there has to be some kind of wind to,
and yeah,
yeah.
to generate it. It makes me think about all those people that have solar panels on their roof to generate electricity for these companies.
Mhm.
Um, that's going to be outdated soon. If we're
Yeah.
going this route, like that's going to be outdated
But
soon.
the goal of nuclear is to complement these other
Okay.
non-fossil fuel kind of power generating technologies like solar energy, like wind energy, like the goal is to complement them.
Mhm.
I know that solar power will be going on for some time. I mean, the government is giving some rebates that for those people who install solar power in their homes. Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
But if we put these effort together and invest in the nuclear industry or in nuclear power plants, which are more economical compared to, because we can produce energy in large scale.
Yeah.
That's the goal. But if you put a solar power in your house, sometimes you might still need to get power from the grid,
Mm.
right?
Mhm. Mhm.
But for the nuclear power plant, we can produce in large scale. So that's the one of the huge benefit. It's a high density, high energy density and power plant. Yeah.
So I'm sure all this awesome information is probably inspiring somebody. But what are the different jobs in the nuclear industry? Like, what can students start to explore and thinking about what they want to do in the nuclear industry?
Well, there's a whole lot of roles you can take in the nuclear industry. They're split into like skilled trades, engineering and other professions, and also technicians and radiologists. For skilled trades, you can be into construction, you can be carpenters, electricians, you can operate the heavy equipment, you can be pipe fitters, you can be welders. But just think about any skilled trade that you can be outside of nuclear, you can be that in nuclear as well. Like all skilled trades exist in nuclear. Um, in terms of engineering and other professions, you can be an engineer. So you could be a chemical engineer, an accountant, a civil engineer. You could be a lawyer because there are lawyers also in the nuclear industry. Yeah, you just need to be there to sign all these, agreements and contracts and put in policies and those kind of stuff. So the fact that it's nuclear does not mean that you have to be STEM, but you can be STEAM in nuclear, right? So you can also be an entrepreneur in nuclear. You can own your own construction or consulting company like Nuclear Promise X. You can go into financial management because every industry has finances that needs to be managed. And then for radiologists, you could be one of those people who do radiation protection, which is a big deal for nuclear. We want to be sure that people are not being overdosed by radiation. So you could go in there and ensure that people are wearing the right PPE and radiation is not overdosed for the people who work in the power plant or go into the power plant. Yeah.
Oh wow, this is so amazing. There's so many opportunities. So like
There also those people who operate the reactors. Those
yeah,
are those are that's like the big deal about the reactor, because if there's no one operating it, how's it going to function, right?
yes.
So they are the
Yes.
reactor operators. If you're that person that's very handy, you have attention to detail, you can monitor the set points of the reactor. It's a job that requires you to be hands-on and attentive. Yeah.
This is amazing. I thank you so much for sharing all of that because I'm just thinking a lot of people are worried. You hear all these people talking about, chat GPT and AI is going to take over. But in the nuclear industry, it sounds like you need everybody, anybody, any kind of skill, any kind of passion you have, anything, working with your hands, working with numbers. It doesn't matter. There's something for everybody in the nuclear industry. So that's so amazing. Thanks for
The
sharing that.
other the other interesting thing is that you don't have to be a nuclear specialist to work in the nuclear industry. You can learn from the get-go, because even if I had an engineering background, I came into the nuclear industry and I learned from the scratch. So
Mhm.
open mind, willing to learn, that's what's required. Yeah.
What advice do you have for students who are interested in exploring this amazing opportunities that are available? What advice do you have for a young person that might be interested?
So I would just say keep your mind open. there's a lot to learn from nuclear. Don't get discouraged. When I started learning about nuclear, the first week I went to my partner, I'm like, are you sure this job is for me? and and
Why did you say that?
it was too much information. It was a lot to take on. And this is me being an engineer and saying this. There's a whole lot. The nuclear power plant is a complex one. And I'm that person that I am all or none. So I want to know the entirety of it. So I was reading and digging deep and working late and trying to know everything at the same time. So it was getting overwhelming for me. So when I spoke to my partner, he looked at me as like, you went for the interview, they gave you the job, it means you're a good fit. That's what he said to me. So I'm just gonna say to everyone else who is, considering or contemplating nuclear, it can be overwhelming, but take it one step at a time. Ask questions. Make sure you get a mentor, someone who can coach you and guide you. We all need a mentor in our lives, and even in our career, personal lives, we all need a mentor. So find someone who can walk you through this career path and keep your mind open to learn about nuclear and identify the skills that you need, the skill set that you require to be in these roles, in any of these roles, and then work towards that.
Oh, thank you. So what skills are most important for the success in nuclear engineering? How can students start working on developing these skills at a young age?
So the skill sets, the first one is problem solving skills. So yeah, nuclear engineering involves complex problem solving and analysis of data. So one of the projects that I worked on was called MCRO, and that's just a fancy name for refurbishing a reactor. So it's called major component refurbishment. So what that did was, after 30 years, a reactor should be taken out. It means it has lived its lifespan. But instead of taking out the reactor after 30 years, the nuclear power plant decided to refurbish the reactor by changing the major components. Now, when you think about radiation, you think about the fact that it costs thousands and thousands of dollars a day if a nuclear reactor is shut down. So when I got on the project, we were thinking of what is the safest way to take out the major components, to reduce radiation to the people, to ensure that the components are replaced safely and it is brought back to generating power in due time, and all this kind of stuff. So the complex problems in nuclear. So the first is problem solving, thinking out of the box. One way you can achieve that is by participating in science and engineering programs like this one, participating in programs that will, like hackathons, we should have something like STEMathons, but something like that will help you to think out of the box and solving world problems. That's one way you could, develop that skill. The other one is technical proficiency. You cannot solve a problem that you don't know about. So basically, reading about the problem, learning more, having a strong foundation in the principles of the domain, which is nuclear power for this program. Understanding that students can focus on building their technical skills by maybe pursuing a degree in nuclear engineering or other sciences, or maybe just even taking courses, or watching some YouTube videos, attending seminars, or maybe just reading books, at your leisure, conducting research, internships, and stuff like that, and just gaining hands-on experience and practical knowledge. One thing my company has done really well is to have interns come in every semester. So every quarter month, we get interns. So at every given month in NPX, there's an intern. We take a lot of interns. The goal is to reach out to people in universities. All of the interns that I've worked with, none of them have heard or had experience with nuclear before they joined my company. So one way would be to go get an internship. If you're still in school and you're interested in nuclear, see how you can get an internship in a nuclear company that will expose you more to practical knowledge and some hands-on experience. One very important one is communication skills. Basically, effective communication is vital in nuclear energy. You want to make sure that when there's three-way communication, when you say things, people absorb what you say, because that's what communication is. And you will be dealing with your colleagues, with stakeholders, with the general public. And you can improve your communication skills by participating in public speaking events, by writing papers, by presenting research findings. For some people, it's not very easy to speak in front of public. For some other people, it is. So you know where your strengths lie. As a young person, I've always loved to speak in front of people, but that doesn't mean that I don't get anxiety. I'm anxious before I go to speak. I start speaking. I feel like, what are you saying? You don't even know what you're saying, and and something just tells me, keep talking, keep talking. You're getting there. So for some persons, it's different. You just don't even want to speak to anybody. So knowing where your capabilities lie and trying to improve your interpersonal communication abilities is very important. The very last one is safety. Nuclear is complex, and it's complicated as well. So you need to, safety is of utmost importance in the nuclear industry. So students would have to develop a strong sense of safety awareness and attention to detail. You don't want to go and do something that would jeopardize the entire power plant and the world at large. So you have to ensure that when you write technical documents, you are paying attention to the figures, the metrics. If you're putting in pressure, temperature, measurements, or whatever it is, you're paying close attention to it. So safety is a big deal. Understanding how safe the reactor is, and where you come in as a person in the nuclear industry matters a lot. So safety culture is a big deal. Yeah. Those are like the few skills and that I could think about. Yeah.
That's so amazing. You've given us a lot to think about, and thank you so much for sharing your journey. There's so much I didn't know, and I'm sure these students will have a blast just learning about this nuclear industry and looking more into it to see, how they could get involved. This is like what we talk about, Anu, when we're like, there's careers that we don't even know exist yet,
Yeah.
right? And then with the nuclear industry just growing, there's going to be so much more that's going to come up that's not even available like right now. So this is awesome. Thank you so much.
And also, yeah, you're welcome. And also, like the robotics in nuclear. So there is recently my company purchased a robotic dog called Spot. So Spot can do maintenance, Spot can do walk downs, so just in case you were an AI person, I want to do AI, but I don't want to do engineering, you can still come in. We're looking for ways to advance the nuclear power industry. So all of this, adaptations and all manner of technology improvements is also required. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. Thank you again. It's wonderful having you to share your journey and teaching us so much about the nuclear industry. So thank you.
You're welcome.
So Nu, what do we have next?
Sure, just gonna get this to go. No, that's not where I want. Let's go. So next is what we have coming up next week on Tuesday, June 6th. Yes. We have Ross Cadastri, who is in tech recruiting. Something you can tell us about this, Tony?
Yes, Ross is actually a CEO and founder of his own tech recruiting company. It's been around for a number of years. So he's going to actually talk about his journey and how he got involved in that, and what are some things that tech recruiters are looking for in candidates for jobs, for future jobs. So join us next week to hear from Ross himself, to give you those secrets that can give you the edge for when you're applying, for when you're done school and you're ready to apply for that job.
And then the week after that, we've got Jaheim Henry, who's a midwife. Really looking forward to hear what he has to say. And how does midwife have anything to do with STEM and STEAM? So I think that's going to be interesting.
Definitely.
And then finally, who do we have on our last date of June 20th?
Chicodili. She is an infotainment developer. So a lot of people are going to be like, what does that mean? So she works for a car plant. I think it's GM that she works for. And they're going to talk about like game developer skills and how that has been able to help with her career. So that's going to be super exciting. And she's the last speaker of our speaker series for this time.
Yeah. Oops, no, that's not what I want.
Quite interesting. Chicodili is my mentee.
Really?
What
a small world.
Yeah. So Ontario Tech, they were looking for some mentors, and I met Chicodili during that match. The university did a match, and I was matched with her, and she's been my mentee till she graduated last year. So
oh my gosh, how exciting is that?
So
it's like a full circle.
Yes.
So I do have a question. How do we get information on what Ace and Co is doing? Is there like a media? Do we have to go to LinkedIn? How do we get more information?
So yes, you can find Ace and Co on LinkedIn, Ace and Co Ltd. It's also on Instagram, Ace and Co Ltd. The website is aceandco.ca, and we'll have more information on there. And we're looking to, ramp up our social media presence as well. So there definitely will be some stuff coming out on LinkedIn and on those social media channels.
Okay, so do you only do online programs, virtual programs like this, or do you also do in-person kind of programs?
But we do in person as well. So it depends on what you're looking for, and we're available. So we're available to do workshops on STEAM, like what is art and STEAM, workshops on what are the careers that are possible, making sure that we're bringing awareness. The whole idea is to making sure that women and young girls know that what's possible for them, but also not just leaving it to that, but making sure that all youth are equipped with the knowledge of what's possible.
Okay, and where are you located? Are you flexible to go out of Ontario? Like where are you located for an in-person?
I feel like I'm being interviewed. This is awesome.
Yeah.
I'm just inquisitive. I just want to know more. Like
no problem.
I'm seeing people who are doing things that I'm very passionate about. So I'm just asking more questions.
No, I love it. Thank you. So right now, we're physically based right outside of Hamilton. It's like Stony Creek, which is, I guess, part of Hamilton. But we do travel. So we do travel. So we do virtual. I've done some virtual talks for Coquitlam, BC. But we do travel if that's the request in Ontario. A lot of the things that we've been doing so far is in the GTA, but we're willing to go where the info needs to be heard. So if it's not by virtual, then we will see how we can make it happen in person.
That makes sense.
Awesome. Thank you.
Cool.
All right. So thank you everyone for joining us for our speaker series, highlighting careers in STEM and STEAM. We hope to see you again next week. And all of these awesome careers that we're highlighting will be available on YouTube soon. So thank you again and have a wonderful time.
See you next week.